Capcom is remaking Resident Evil 3, which is the Resident Evil game where a big melting Michael Chiklis in cybergoth gear chases you the whole time. The Nemesis is an unstoppable hunter. It's the sole antagonist that pursues the hero through their ordeal. It's the Russian oligarch hunter from The Most Dangerous Game, it's the Terminator, it's Anton Chigurh. And when this archetype shows up in games, it can be viscerally scary, like the kind of scary that knots my guts up and makes me feel physically bad. Just about every game is chock full of monsters that want to hurt you, but these ones are worse because you can't hurt them back, and they'll follow you wherever you go. A load screen will not save you.
Jesus Christ!
But not all personifications of inevitable death are created equally, so here's a review of all of the monsters who chased me before. We'll be evaluating our monsters based on 3 criteria on a scale from 1 to 5. The first criteria is fear. This is where we evaluate the monster on pure horror aesthetics. How do you feel when you look at the monster? If the answer is pretty good, then it's getting a low score on this one. Danger is where we evaluate how badly the monster can actually fuck you up. Because a lot of times the things that scare us aren't the same things that can hurt us. I've had a lot more nightmares about giant lobsters than global warming, and only one of those things is gonna kill me. And finally, persistence. This isn't just about how often the monster is on screen menacing you, it's also about how much time they spend living rent-free in your head. If you can tell that a hunter is only going to be tailing you for certain sections, it's just not as scary. A hunter that only shows up when it's wanted is a good person, but a bad monster. There's some natural overlap with these criteria, and we can see that in our first reviewee. SINISTAR is an asteroids-like space shooter from 1983. You fly around, you shoot other fighters, you blow up space rocks to build new weapons, and then you get chased by a living planetoid who love to scream. SINISTAR scores above average in both persistence and fear. Remember wasps? Imagine a wasp doing that thing wasps love to do where they fly at your face over and over again, except that wasp is screaming with the voice of a fully grown human man. SINISTAR was one of the first video games to feature real recorded human voices, and it was all extremely menacing.
Run, coward!
SINISTAR scores pretty high on danger as well. He's the most powerful enemy in the game, and while you can beat him, he will reappear on the very next level. Also, it's an arcade game, which means that if you get caught, and you will get caught, the game is fully over unless you want to pay more quarters to get yelled at again.
Beware, I live.
Ubisoft's reboot of the Prince of Persia series had the perfect tone. It was Disney accessibility with just a touch of spice. And then they made a second one, with more sword and blood and babes in metal thongs and wet hair and lots of gray and one Godsmack song that plays for the entire game. The one that was also on the soundtrack to The Scorpion King. You remember it. It also added the DAHAKA, a big, inky tentacle man who chases you throughout the whole game. Let's get fear out of the way because the DAHAKA is not scary. Honestly, I think his buffness undercuts the fear factor here because it's just too funny. Imagine being told to design a physical manifestation of inevitability and fate and then just immediately being like, oh yeah, we gotta give him some big fucking muscles, man. Just big, huge pecs, 6-pack abs, big quads. He's also not very dangerous. His role in the gameplay is to put a bit more pressure on you during the platforming segments, but this is a game where you can rewind time, so it's pretty low stakes. Then again, you do face a larger than average chance of hearing Godsmack while he's around, so I guess that's a bit of a risk. Ol' Heavy D scores slightly above average in persistence because he does chase you for the entire game, culminating in a confrontation in the final act. That's the platonic ideal. The problem is the bits where he chases you are too cut and dry. Once you pass through a barrier of running water, you know that you're safe until the next time you hear Godsmack start playing. Dead Space. It was Resident Evil 4. In space. You might not remember the Hunter though, because the Hunter wasn't that great. It was teased in the game's 5th chapter, and didn't appear until the 10th. It was pretty much a bigger, lumpier version of the game's basic slasher enemies, except it couldn't die. Hunterland's average scores in fear and danger because it shambles at you in a nasty way, and if it catches you and chops you up, you gotta go all the way back to the most recent manual save point. It scores lower in persistence though, because even though it's unkillable, it only hunts you for a single chapter of the game until you cook it with an experimental jet engine. That sounds familiar. Ah, Pyramid Head, the twisted joker of game villains. He's one of these video game characters who spawned a weird cult of personality and a cottage industry of people making video essays that say things like, Pyramid Head is, without a doubt, the most highly psychological villain in all of gaming. Fan theories positing that maybe he's actually the good guy, and essays delving into what makes him so iconic and memorable. Spoilers. It's because he got a big pyramid on his head. He's kinda scary, but his incredibly slow animations and infrequent, fully scripted appearances mean he's not much of a threat. Pyramid Head only really shows up once in a blue moon to help the protagonist confront repressed trauma or whatever. Metroid Fusion put a fun spin on the relentless pursuer archetype. The intention of every other hunter on this list is crystal clear, but your time with the SAX begins as a bunch of mysterious, creepy near misses. SAX, who I'm just going to call Sax from now on, is a colony of parasites that looks just like you, walking around in your stolen armor. As the game progresses, it becomes more and more aware of you, and its efforts to catch you ramp up. In a few scripted sequences, Sax chases you down corridors, and eventually you fight it. Most of the monsters on this list are scary because of their visual design, and because of the way they move, but Sax is scary because of what it is. It's like seeing somebody else on Twitter who's using your face as their profile picture. The creepy doppelganger thing is effective, and hearing those intentional, heavy metallic footfalls is some real nightmare shit, so we're gonna give it a 4 for fear. It's also pretty dangerous. Once you make contact, the Sax can kill you real good. In persistence, Sax embodies both extremes. Most of its appearances happen during normal Metroid screen transitions, so every time you bomb through a wall or hop in an elevator, you wonder if it'll be waiting for you on the other side. But since Sax doesn't usually show up unannounced, once you're in a space, you usually feel safe until the next transition. SCISSORMAN rules. He put every single one of his points into persistence, and it is not paying off for him. SCISSORMAN is the sole antagonist of the first 2 entries of Clock Tower, a point-and-click adventure that was hugely influential in the genre of survival horror. The thing is, he's not very scary. He's got the same energy as that toddler with a knife, which is to say, very worrying, but not particularly threatening. He's like 4 feet tall, he's got a huge set of scissors, he pinches them closed every time he hops. At one point, he literally sends you a handwritten fax that says, "I'm coming to get ya," he puts the apostrophe in there and everything. Your player characters don't have access to any real weapons, but you do get a spray bottle, so you can punish him like a bad little kitty. Every single strategy for fighting back is completely humiliating for this dude. Like the one where you just gently drape a bedsheet over him and walk out of the room. He's not very dangerous or scary, but God, he's persistent. He sticks around until the final moments of the game where he gets sucked into a wall for some reason. Rip to a short king. Sega and Creative Assembly did an incredible job capturing the look and feel of Ridley Scott's original horrifying Alien film. Hey Charles. Alien is a huge, intelligent, but inscrutable hunter. It's scary and dangerous. It's faster than you, and it can disappear into vents and reappear where you least want it to, specifically the vent that you're in. And over the course of the game, it learns new behaviors and techniques for hunting you. Alien Isolation makes you do frustrating, menial tasks while knowing that somewhere very nearby, the alien is making plans to eat your entire face. Even saving is an exercise in fear. You gotta jam your punch card into this time clock and then wait for a count of 100. It's the sci-fi horror equivalent of the moment you hit play on your totally normal work playlist, then realize your headphones aren't plugged in, and then you accidentally misclick and start an also very normal YouTube video, then miss the mute button and hit the louder button. Yes! That ever happened to you? Gamers? So tired. Mr. X, also known as the Tyrant, stalks you through the Raccoon City PD portion of Resident Evil 2 Remake, and he's also the boss of Leon's campaign. Some aspects of the Mr. X experience are really scary. Even when he's not on the screen, you can hear him angrily stomping around the police station. That constant background presence is super anxiety-inducing, and then when the footsteps go away, you start expecting something. Oh shit! Is that a fedora? He's imposing, but in a sort of big, huge, dumb bad guy from an action movie kind of way, rather than a nasty, I got knife hands and my brain's on the outside kind of way. Like he stomps towards you and you're like, oh no, is he gonna lay eggs in my mouth or melt my legs with acid? And then he just sort of does a punch. He's also really slow. His brisk walk is just a bit slower than your leisurely jog. But he's got the remarkable ability to appear between you and a save point when your inventory is full of freshly gathered herbs, rare ammunition, and precious, precious dongles. And that's where you start getting scared again, because that stuff was hard to get, and if this big asshole catches you, you lose it all and then you have to go get it all again or just give up.
Son of a bitch.
Jack Baker is just dad bod Mr. X. He gets an extra half point to fear because you're always worried that he's just maybe about to say something racist.
You better start running, boy.
Nemesis is like Mr. X if he didn't set properly before baking. He plays the same role as Mr. X too, but he's even more central to the game and plot. I mean, they named the game after him. He's also way faster. He can just break into a dead sprint and it is fucking horrifying. He can leap directly into your path. If you think you're safe behind an obstacle, he'll just yeet himself up into the air and find another path to you. He moves in more threatening ways, and he's also just a lot worse to look at. Big, nasty lunch meat man wrapped in trash bags. So he's scoring really high in all of our criteria. But just how scary he is really depends on how much you have to lose when you see him. And now that I think about it, every unstoppable killer is really only part of the scary equation. When you strip away the horror aesthetics and just look at them mechanically, they're all just ways of putting unavoidable pressure on the player when they deal with the real horror. Our bonus monster, Scarcity. The most effective uses of the unstoppable hunter archetype represent a threat to your resources, like bullets or scrounged up medkits or progress in the game. Artificially imposed scarcity and intentionally archaic save systems mean that when the inevitable threat suddenly shows up, there's no safety net. You're carrying a backpack full of green herbs and the Nemesis teleports in front of you, and suddenly you start thinking about all the work you're going to have to do to get back here. Even though ostensibly you're having fun, the stress reaction is really similar to that feeling you get when you get a vet bill due on the same day as rent and you're afraid to check your bank balance. I see this bloated Jason Statham on my screen and I start looking around my apartment for things to sell. It's the feeling that one unavoidable setback could suddenly make your life much, much harder. So that's why it's important to focus on the things that you can control. Like how much Godsmack you're listening to. Turn that shit up, baby. Scorpion King. Music for and inspired by